All right, guys, welcome to the show. Welcome in to Before Articles Podcast, episode 120 here for August 19th, 2025. High atop a dry Jacksonville, Florida. A lot of things going on. Actually, something's wrong with the audio on the. Well, just a second here. I know we're live, but so the microphone is not working. This is muted on the Spotify version. So, yeah, apologies for that. But let me start over here. Give me 1 second. Close this tab, and okay. Let me see here. Let me restart this recording. Apologies, guys. Not expect this to happen. Some audio issues here on the Spotify side of things. On YouTube, everything's fine, but yeah, doing some work here. We're not restarting the stream or anything like that. So we're going. This is live as live can be. So apologies for that. Let me delete this. So you'll hear me do the greeting again. That's because we're doing it for the Spotify folks. So apologies for that. Okay, so the sound is working on now because the sound was muted on the computer. So apologies for that. Again, we're not the best at doing this. We're still figuring some stuff out, but it looks like we're getting back on track. So go and delete that. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Finally, so we'll do the introduction again. Again, apologies for that. We are from YouTube, but on Spotify, this won't matter for you as much. 3, 2, 1. And welcome into the Four Articles Podcast, episode 120, take 2. For those of you who are on Spotify, the audio was not working on the original recording, but we're still live on YouTube. So if you're on Spotify, it doesn't matter. YouTube, you just heard the introduction twice. But yes, we are high atop a dry Jacksonville, Florida, here on August 19th, game week, if you will. For week 0 coming up, college ball is back. We have a game preview for Kansas State and Iowa State, Farmageddon, all the way in Ireland, no less. We have that. We have Camp Intel, a lot of things happening there. And also the debut of the Tuesday poll. Yes, we have our own poll now. It's not a power rankings. It is an actual poll of me ranking the teams where they should be, not a who will be favored over who. So no confusion there. So we'll have that later in the show. A lot of Camp Intel preview for Iowa State, Kansas State. Very excited that we are finally back in the swing of things of game week. As a lot of our shows are taking a week off or taking a vacation, we do honor week 0. We honor the beginning of the college ball season. Well, again, our shows are off on vacation or have been on vacation. We are still on. So again, thank you guys for coming in. Again, audio issues on the Spotify side of things, a big deal. For folks on YouTube, on Spotify, yes, this is the YouTube version. The Spotify version will be a lot shorter than each other, so there will be a difference in length, but won't be that much of a problem. But again, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys do that. I know there's only 7 of you, and none of you guys watch the show live, which is fine. I think most of you guys, we get most of our traction, by the way, on Spotify, it seems like, but that's okay. You got to start out somehow, and we're still growing, and we're only 1 year in, so we're not expecting major success out of that already. But we are trying, and we're trying to get traction as we can. So again, make sure if you're listening to this on the replay, or if you're listening to this somehow live or on Spotify, subscribe to the YouTube channel, podcast feed, and follow me on X, Twitter. Make sure to follow over there, and that's all we're at in terms of the social media side of things. So hopefully you guys will go over there and, hop on, subscribe, and like the streams and the videos when we do them. So in terms of some of the other, I know the Michigan stuff came out Friday. I did an individual video on that on the YouTube channel, so go look for that. That's not on Spotify at all. That's a YouTube exclusive. So again, this show's free. I haven't talked to an advertiser before. This is independent media. We do this show twice a week. Tuesdays and not Mondays, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now next week, a little bit of programming note here. Next week on Thursday, we will not have the live show because since it's game week, we're going to move everything. We're going to sort of stuff everything into the Tuesday show. So next Tuesday, we're going to have a really, really long, super jam-packed week 1 special. So there's no show on Thursday. Begrudgingly, I would have liked to, but who knows? We may, or at least a live show. We may try to do a pre-recorded Q&A. I may record that tomorrow or Thursday, I guess. But yeah, the schedule is going to get a little weird, and then it'll get back to normal after the following week, or God forbid, any hurricanes to come through. So yeah, next week will be a weird schedule. That's pretty prototypical, I guess, around here. It happened last year too, so that's not unnormal. But yeah, we got previews and prediction for Iowa State, Kansas State. Here's my notes here, and yeah, just have a lot of stuff going on. So again, make sure you subscribe, like the videos and the streams, and follow me on X. Very active over there around this time of the year, or always around the always as active over there. Camp Intel. Yes, a lot of fall camps are happening. Some fall camps have ended, if you will, for teams like Kansas, Stanford, Kansas State, Iowa State. A lot of your camps have ended. You guys are in full game prep mode. So what about what's going on with the teams that have not began game week yet? Some of them, I think Florida State has, I believe. But a lot of injuries here. I know we were really negative last show. Sort of negative here, but there is some positivity here, I guess, if you will. First up, Texas Tech. I think it's Quentin Joyner, running back there. He has torn his ACL. He is out. That's a huge blow for Texas Tech. As you will see in the actual in the poll that we do, the Tuesday poll that we release every single Tuesday, you will notice that Texas Tech is a little bit lower than I wanted them to be. I guess I just did it earlier today, or not earlier today. Well, I finalized the poll earlier today. I did have Texas Tech a little bit higher in my rankings, or if I'm ranking the team, so we'll cover that later. But yeah, huge loss for them. Not to mention with Brandon Morton, the quarterback there, definitely, as Bud Elliott says, made of glass. Has a lot of injuries over the years, not always healthy. So that hurts a little bit for Texas Tech, especially, late in, I guess if you get later into the year, you're going to need a lot of those players to be healthy, and that's not a good start. As for quarterbacks, you've had some quarterbacks names, some quarterback battles have been settled. So Julian Sayin, QB1, finally at Ohio State. Took a little bit longer than I think folks expected, but, sometimes that can happen. So he's the quarterback there. He's QB1. Cool. I think there was some discussion, with the whole battle of, and it's not a controversy too. I know Josh Payton said this is a lot. That's not controversial to have quarterbacks. It's a good thing. It may not be good options, but it's not a controversy. It's not controversial to have players on your team. That's not and you need players on your team. So that whole battle, not a controversy to that battle of for Keenholz. That's how you say it. Keenholz and Sayin. Keenholz is more of the dual threat guy. Just saying he can move around, but he's not. He's more, I guess, if you were to use an NFL comparison here, sort of like Aaron Rodgers, speed when he was in his prime, in terms of peak health and whatnot. So, more of a field general type quarterback, like a backfield creator, if you will, that terminology. So he's QB1. I think Keenholz is definitely more of the runner. I think you'll still see him. To have your running back room, obviously, it helps to have Jeremiah Smith and those receivers there, with Brian Hartline being the OC and the wide receivers coach. So Julian Sayin being QB1, no concerns there. Now you have your quarterback set there for week 1. Arch Manning at Texas, and now Julian Sayin. And I guarantee you, week 1, you'll probably hear this a lot, that, it's the Alabama transfer, Julian Sayin, starting for Ohio State. Look, I think a lot of us who are non-casuals and non-general public fly-by college football fans know that, but a lot of the NFL folks probably need to be reminded of that probably a couple times on the broadcast there on Fox. Also at Tennessee, Julian Aguilar, QB1. Congratulations, sir. I think from what we've been hearing from a lot of folks, I think it's pretty clear that the quarterback situation there at Tennessee going the direction it's going with Julian Aguilar, probably a good thing. I know from what I've heard from guys like Bud Elliott and Josh Pate, I think the underlining thinking was if it wasn't Julian Aguilar, that would be very, very concerning. I know who was it, the McIntyre kid who's the freshman. There's nothing wrong with him. It's just he's younger, in terms of experience, not a lot of it. Very keen to make an impression. I think if you're a Tennessee fan, I think while Aguilar is definitely a step down in terms of potential from Nico Iamaleava, I think you're getting someone who is stable. Yes, he's like come with a lot of turnovers, and that's whatever. Right? That's what it is. But you get someone who's stable. You get someone who's experienced. It's okay. But yeah, if you were starting the McIntyre kid or whoever, I think there's him and there's the other who's the Merlinger kid, I believe. It would have been interesting, but probably not what you wanted to hear. I think you would much rather had an experienced Joy Aguilar, who yes, he's turnover ridden, he's prone to make a lot of mistakes. I think you can rest easy, and you should have someone who will operate the offense. Not to mention, too, you're running the Baylor Brile stuff, which, according to Bud and what he's talked to Bud Elliott over on Cover 3, it sounds like that offense there, the veer and shoot stuff, fairly easy to install with a new starter. So no real concerns there in terms of him knowing the offense and whatnot. But in terms of turnover stuff and him, not necessarily being a dual threat guy traditionally, little worry there. But I'm not too concerned he can operate the offense. He can do it, at least from what I'm hearing. As for Bama, I know this is a big story happening on Saturday, I believe, Sunday, that Jam Miller has an injury. He's out, so he won't be playing against Florida State. Be out for a little bit now. I think what Josh Pate said on his show Sunday and on Twitter X that he expects Jam Miller to be back by the time Georgia, by the time they go to Georgia to Athens, when SEC play opens up. So at least that's according to him. That's nothing official. That's just what Josh was hearing because he was literally there, I believe, when it happened. Him and I believe his wife was there too, Savannah. That's the place she used to work at, apparently. I believe that's true. So according to Josh, what he saw and what he's been hearing, according to him, it seems like he should be ready to go come SEC play, which should be the Georgia game. So, yeah, he won't be there for Florida State. That doesn't change anything for me or for anyone's thinking. I think it's pretty clear that he won't necessarily be missed, if you will. At least it's not a total disaster, if you will. They should be okay. At Michigan, I believe his Bryce Underwood the starter. I don't think he is. I haven't heard anything him being the starter, so that's to be determined, I guess. But that the five-star freshman OT Andrew Babalua, I believe Babalua, he has suffered a season-ending knee injury. Now I'm going to check and see if there's anything official or what has happened about what the injury was. I don't think it's been necessarily said what it was. You can, I guess, assume what it is. But yeah, potentially season ending, probably won't play until next year. So that's not good considering that Michigan's going to be running the football a lot with Chip Lindsey coming in. Sharon Moore, obviously Bryce Underwood, probably the starter because it's not been confirmed yet. But yeah, that's a huge hit for Michigan. I think that's kind of disappointing. I think you wanted him to be out there with given how much you're going to be running the football. So that's tough. That happened yesterday. CJ Carr at Notre Dame, finally QB1. If you've been listening to the show last week, my theory is this is the quarterback situation or quarterback battle that I think Josh Pitt was referring to about like one of them couldn't stay off his phone. I think this is one, if that's the case, and I guess CJ Carr is finally off his phone, I guess. Originally, because this was announced like literally as we were coming on live on the air here on YouTube. I was before this was announced, I was going to do the whole yet again saying how disappointed I was in CJ Carr and sort of bringing up the whole cell phone theory that this is the QB battle that Josh was referring to. Whether or not again that gets confirmed tonight on his show, which will be in a few hours from State College. He's up there visiting Penn State. James Franklin too will be on the show later for Josh later. But very interesting to see if he brings it up that this is the team that this was the QB battle he was referring to. Either that one or I guess maybe Julian Sayin, maybe. I don't know. I'm assuming it's one of those two probably, big high profile ones. But my money it's probably the CJ Carr, Kenny Minchie battle. But I think it's interesting with CJ Carr being named a starter. Yes, it did take a little bit longer than expected, but it really did seem like that CJ Carr was getting tested here with Kenny Minchie. And Kenny Minchie definitely more of dual threat guy, can run around. He's more of a runner. I think from that aspect, it's interesting because CJ Carr, he's not a starter. He is a starter. He's not a statue, but he's not like really mobile. But interesting to see if Kenny Minchie will play at all. I think he will. There'll be a role for him, I'm sure. Sort of like with Keen Holtz at Ohio State, and I think the same thing with Keelan Russell over at Alabama. I think you will see him a lot in the running game. So, yeah, CJ Carr, QB1. Took a little bit. I will say if it was the other direction, to be honest, I've been a little disappointed in CJ Carr. I guess with or without the whole, my cell phone, the whole cell phone theory I have that he is the one that was having the cell phone problem. But regardless of that was true or not, I've still been disappointed, right? Former 5-star kid, a coach's son, or a coach's, his bloodline is coaching, right? His grandfather is Lloyd Carr. So we've been disappointed either way. But yeah, good to see him get the start. He will be starting week 1 versus when Notre Dame goes down to Miami. And I believe, again, I don't believe, has Michigan named Bryce Underwood the starter? I don't think he's been named yet, which is a little concerning given that we're getting close to being a week out from them playing. So let's see here. Bryce Underwood, he's been named a starter yet. No, he has not. He has not. So that QB battle is still going on. So we'll see. By the way, Michigan did get a huge 5-star running back commit. Sayin, is it Hitter or Hider? I think it's Hider. I don't think it's Hitter. That'd be a weird, interesting last name. But yeah, they did get him as well. So congrats to Sherrod Moore and company. But yeah, so the Michigan Michigan with Bryce Underwood's not been decided yet. CJ Carr has been named QB1. Joey Aguilar has been named QB1. Julian Sayin has been named QB1. Again, the Michigan OT injury there, that's tough. Same with Jan Miller. But again, I think, according to Josh Pate, he should be back for SEC play. And Texas Tech, Joyner out for the year, looks like, for the ACL, obviously. So that's tough there. So that's camp intel. A lot more I could probably talk about. Probably that's not been publicly out there. But again, with someone who doesn't have access to, a lot of these, sites and whatnot that are behind the paywall, unfortunately, you have to rely on other resources to get information, sort of regurgitate information. So, again, shout out to shows like Josh Pate, Cover 3. Those guys do the Lord's work, if you will, of getting information out to people that is behind the paywall. So that's nice for him to have that for us. For some of us who don't have access to that, because some of us have budgets and we need to reallocate sources elsewhere. So we'll get some water here, and then we'll get into Farmageddon preview and prediction here. Very excited to get into this. Been waiting for this. Been waiting 6 months to finally do another preview and prediction. Now we're back. So I'm going to get some water here, and then we will continue with the show. All right, good. Again, if you guys are new here, again, make sure to subscribe, like the streams, follow me on X, Twitter, and be sure to subscribe to the podcast feed. Again, if you're on Spotify and on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Or if you're listening to on the other, if you're listening to on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast feed and vice versa. Just make sure you do that. Again, just to let you guys know, there's not a whole lot of Marvel news to talk about, or Star Wars has been kind of quiet for the most part. So we're mainly getting into college football mode here. So that's mainly what we're going to be talking about. So if you're looking for that, we may circle back to Marvel stuff on Thursday, I believe, or maybe in our Q&A if we do one next week, if I decide to record one. But yeah, Iowa State, Kansas State, Farmageddon is being played it's being played in Dublin, Ireland. Begrudgingly, not a fan of it. I've already told you I did that a couple weeks ago. My whole rant about neutral site games and games being played internationally. I will say it again. I will say it one more time. I hate this. I hate it's not being planned in either Ames, Iowa, or Manhattan, Kansas. I know from what people tell me, it's all about the money. It's all about the revenue and the TV. Media people will say it's all about the money. But as a college football fan, I want this to be on a home campus. And I want it being played in Ireland. And look, I'm not against folks in Ireland. Look, I know it's the pageantry and the whole spiel of going over there and whatnot, but it's just I would much rather have this game being played on a college campus where there's actual at an actual college football stadium, not a soccer stadium, and it's just, I don't know, it sucks, but we're getting it. I'll be watching it. I believe this will be what time does the game start? I believe it starts at least here. I believe at noon. I believe. Let me double check that. Yeah, noon. It's on ESPN. Dave Pash, Dusty Dvorak will be calling the game, along with Taylor McGregor. By the way, College Game Day will not be there. I think that's been confirmed. They won't be there. Same with Pat McAfee, too. He will not obviously be there. So, interesting that they're not doing that this year. Makes sense. I mean, because of Herbie, of course, he's doing the Thursday night preseason game on Amazon. So I think what happened last year, too, I think the travel thing was really weird. So I think that's why they're not doing it this year, even though it's a big matchup. But, yeah, no College Game Day, no Pat McAfee will be there. I believe they'll be here. Or at least Pat will be here, obviously, but there won't be any game day at all this weekend. So, sucks. Let me see back to my notes here. This is a fun game here. Even without, the whole playoff indication stuff and, it's a ranked matchup, I am interested to see what this looks like for Kansas State. Because Iowa State last year, they did get to the conference championship game. Yes, they got boat raced by Arizona State. But I think Kansas State, and you'll see this in the poll, the Tuesday poll, that I'm very high on Kansas State. I believe I have Kansas State as the highest ranked, if I'm looking at my ranking here, the highest ranked Big 12 team. I am very high on them. I'm very excited about what they bring back. Chris Klein, one of my favorite coaches to watch. Avery Johnson, they always a joy to watch. And that to me is one of the keys of the game, is his running. He is going to have to use his legs. This is not a situation where it was last year where you have to hide his running ability. He needs to run the football. He needs to do it. This is not a situation where he needs to be throwing the football 20 plus times. He needs to be running the football. That's his skill set. That's what he's good at. That's why they brought him in to run this offense. As clear as I don't know what else to say. He needs to be running the football. That's his skill set. That's what he's good at. Sort of like, if you use the Florida State comparison, but it's kind of like Castellanos at Florida State. He does not need to be the best passer in the world. He needs to be the best version of himself, which is a runner. So that's one key. The other key, pass rush. From what I can tell, I think pass rush for a lot of these, for both Kansas State and Iowa State, was not the best last year. Excuse me. There was the ceremonial burp there for once a show. Neither pass rush was really that good. So last year for either of these teams, or at least it wasn't necessarily the best. And I think it'll be interesting to see which one ends up being the best. I think for Iowa State last year, it was one of the weakest points of their defense last year. So we need to see which one steps up for every team to have success here. I think for Kansas State, it's more of an issue. For Iowa State, if we're going against Avery Johnson, who is not the best passer in the world, it's not an issue. But for Kansas State, I think that's a point there. For Iowa State, speaking of Iowa State, wide receivers need to step up. Rocco Beck's back. They did lost a lot of talent. I mean, I think Bud Elliott has been he's been screaming about this for a while, that Iowa State has lost a lot of wide receivers. A lot of them are in the NFL now, either drafted or undrafted, and that's a big deal. May not be a big deal for like a Georgia or Clemson or whatnot. For some of these small schools, especially for like a Mississippi State, South Carolina, Iowa State, Kansas State, if you have receivers, either drafted or undrafted, you're losing guys, and that's value being lost. And I think for Iowa State, you guys will step up. Who's going to do it? I mean, Rocco Beck can't be throwing the ball to himself, right? He needs friends here to step up. Hopefully they do. I'm sure they'll be working on that all throughout fall camp in the spring. Hopefully they can get that established. The other big key is, of course, the run defense for both of these teams. I think, especially for Iowa State. Again, they're going against a very, very talented Kansas State rushing attack. That was very good at times last year. Again, you're going to be seeing Avery Johnson using his legs a lot. And for Iowa State, they're really good. They're number one nationally, I believe, defensively. They've struggled trying to think here. What was I saying here? Well, they were number one pass defense, but the pass defense, they're number one. I was reading my notes wrong there. Iowa State's run defense still has been, kind of is what it is. It wasn't very good last year, but they were good pass defensively. But again, you're not going against a very good passing team. You're going against, at least in the secondary, you're going against the Kansas State teams that run the football. So in that case for Iowa State, better tie your shoes, get ready to chase guys around. So, you have Dylan Edwards there back. You have Avery Johnson, who's an effective runner. You're going to need to step up. And I think Matt Campbell and company there will hopefully do that. And I think they have the potential to do that. I think there's an opportunity for them to do so, but if they can't, and the Kansas State's going to be running for 200 yards plus, Kansas State's going to win the football game. If Iowa State, again, 2-1 in the game, if they were to pull this off, which, by the way, according to FanDuel, the line is Kansas State minus 3.5, which will feel to make sense. If you do the power rating stuff, like Josh Pate, that makes sense if you've been conditioned to this stuff. So Kansas State is minus 3.5. So if Iowa State were to pull this off, they first of all need to find a way to stop the ground game for Kansas State, find a way to, shut down Avery Johnson, find a way to shut down Dylan Edwards, and get, Kansas State in a situation to where they are having to pass the football and having to get those receivers involved, which I don't think they're really that good, or at least they're not at the level of like a Clemson even, or like an LSU, or an Alabama, or a Georgia even. So they need to have those guys step up. If Iowa State, or you need to rely on those guys if Iowa State's pass defense is still as good as it was last year, which it was. So again, Iowa State, if you're going to win this game, wide receivers need to step up. Rush defense is a go. If it's not a go with the receivers in your run defense, you're going to really struggle. So with that being said, I think these are two of the best coaching staffs in the country, at least in the Big 12. If Chris Kleiman and Matt Campbell, two of the best in the business, really good coaches. I've listened to all their interviews with other networks, or if Josh Payton would have been on there. I think Kleiman and him were not on the speaker series of this year for Josh, but they were on there last year for Pate. Very good to listen to. If you didn't watch him last year, I would highly recommend doing so. But these are two of the best coaching staffs in the country. Two of the best coaching stables in the country. They're really good, and they're really well respected. Chris Kleiman's been around for a long time at the FCS level and at Kansas State. Matt Campbell, G5 at Toledo. Now at Iowa State's been a real known commodity. So in terms of a head coaching matchup, if you will, two of the best coaches in the country, this is a good one here. Very good one. You guys know I've been really high on Kansas State. I was high on them last year a little bit. I was high on them again this year. I believe, I'm not literally high. I'm trying to see, have we done their prediction yet? I believe we have. Let me double check here. I believe we did. Yeah, so for Kansas State, they're over one total for FanDuel. I believe was 8.5. I believe, if I recall. Like their best case scenario was like 10-2, worst case 6-6, 9-3 was a reasonable. So you can tell I'm really high on them. So because of all that, because of what I think of Avery Johnson and what I think of Iowa State's run defense was a bad spot for them on defense last year. Knowing that at Kansas State and Chris Kleiman are going to run the football, and also knowing that Iowa State's receivers are not what they were last year. They are definitely unknown commodities. And as Bud Elliott has said recently, or has been saying recently, if you have a situation where if you don't have a clear guy in your wide receiver room that you can point out, and you're just pointing out a group of guys, that's not good. And I agree with Bud on that. That's not necessarily good. And I think these wide receivers for Iowa State, frankly, they're just no one stepped up from what I can tell. So I'm going to pick Kansas State to win the game outright, and I think they cover. So, yeah, Kansas State wins, they cover, and that's a huge win for them early in the season. Huge conference win. And for Iowa State, I mean, look, they'll get their opportunities later in the year, but again, without wide receiver help for Rocco Becht, look, I like Rocco Becht. I mean, Rocco Becht's a good quarterback, but without the help of wide receivers, or without the help of good wide receivers, at least guys who are, showing up in fall, who were showing out in fall camp and spring, and the fact that your rush defense was not very good and you're going against one of the best rushing teams in the Big 12, that to me spells disaster in my opinion. So pick Kansas State to win and cover. So unless some of the guys can step up, then I think Kansas State can win the game, because I think that coaching staff there is just as good as the one in Manhattan. But I know the team in Manhattan has a way more established running attack and have more of an identity on offense than I think they do this year, with the receiver core not being as good, and a lot of questions there on defense for Iowa State and Matt Campbell. So going to take Kansas State to win and cover. And I like Kansas State. And again, we'll eventually do our conference predictions and whatnot on Thursday. And as you will see, I'll be very, very confident in Kansas State. So I'm going to get some more water here. We'll continue on with our team record projection series with Utah. Speaking of the Big 12, Utah. Team record projection for 2025. The series we've been doing since the beginning of May is continuing. We still have some teams we have to do. Like Notre Dame, Nebraska, I think are the big ones. Illinois is one. So we still have some teams left. We're getting close to the end here. And then, of course, we'll eventually do the Buccaneers, like best case, worst case scenario and whatnot. So we'll eventually do that. But as for Utah, Kyle Cunningham, what do you think of Utah this year? So last year was what it was. 5-7, injuries and whatnot, just inconsistency, which is strange because Utah, even going back to the old Pac-12 days, was the model of consistency. It's sort of like Oklahoma State with Mike Gundy before last year too. It's just the model of consistency in the Big 12 outside of OU, they're a big rival. At least not anymore, but it's not consistent last year. That was not what they were used to seeing there in Salt Lake City. Can that change? They bring in a whole new offensive coaching staff, whole new. They bring in Tim Beck, the other Tim Beck, or not Tim Beck. There's a lot of guys' last name Beck. There's two Tim Becks. There's the one at in Vanderbilt, the one at Coastal Carolina. But this is Jason Beck, no relation, I believe, to either of them. He comes in, he brings in Devin Dampier, the quarterback. And I think that's the key here is those two. I think that's what you're looking at here for Utah. Not to mention the other transfers as well they brought in. They brought in Parker from Washington State. He should be, I think, your starter. Some other commodities. Nate Johnson is back, I believe, a second go-around at Utah, so he's back as well. Back as well, so he'll be an option as well if injuries go wrong there. They lost a lot of guys in the portal, but it's kind of, I think you need to get rid of some guys, so that doesn't concern me as much. But I think something on my nose there. What I think Utah has, you have Dampier, you have Jason Beck, you have Kyle Cunningham, who's again very much the model of success there. I just can't see them having another bad year. And their schedule, by the way, really shapes up pretty well. So they hit UCLA in an old Pac-12 matchup there. Sort of, down back the clock there. You know what? Can have an old Pac-12 matchup. And how about that? Pac-12 after dark reunion there. And that's at the Roseville, by the way, in Pasadena. So they get that FCS team at Wyoming and Laramie. Sneaky game. I'm just saying, sneaky game. Don't ever estimate Laramie. As Chip Harrison says on Curve 3, it's windy in Laramie, right? And that's a place where we have seen good teams there go and lose. If you don't believe me, go ask Texas Tech a couple years ago. They lost. Jordan McGuire Company, they lost that game. Was it last year or year before? I don't remember. It was a couple years ago, I believe. It was either last year or a couple years ago. But still, that's a tough place to play at. I know that Wyoming was not very good last year. They were historically bad, or at least bad in terms of recent success. At least in the recent memory, they were, very much so, just atrocious last year. So it's not usually like them. So hopefully they bounce back if you're a Wyoming fan. But you get them on the road. But so that's early in the year. So UCLA will see. Wyoming, that's tricky in itself to travel. So you're only at home once in the first 3 weeks. So you only have one home game. But what you do have is you have Kansas State and Texas Tech, two of the big teams in the Big 12, the two big favorites, if you will, at home. You also get Arizona State at home. So you have all the big three at home, and that's an advantage for you, given that you're at elevation. Those teams aren't really used to playing in elevation like that. So that's a plus. But you have to go on the road at Baylor. You have that. You have BYU on the road, Holy War. You also have Colorado come to town as well. So that's good that you get them. Then you also have Kansas. I believe is that on Black Friday? I believe. Is that Friday? Yeah, Black Friday. That's on the road as well. And Kansas could be an interesting team too. Could be a surprise team as well. As long as Jalen Daniels can play football effectively and actually throw a pass and read your defense and stay healthy. So Schedule work. It's tough though. I mean, it's tough, but you do have a lot of those. Again, the teams need to beat in the Big 12. Kansas State, Texas Tech, and Arizona State all at home. So again, that's very very helpful for you. Not to mention you get Kansas State late in the year. Because at that point, who knows if injuries and stuff like that, especially with the tough offense they run. So because of that, because of Devin Dampier, who was really good for New Mexico, was in New Mexico State, New Mexico, I think it was in New Mexico. Very efficient for Brock Mendenhall, by the way, who is at Utah State now. He was only there for a year, but Jason Beck coming in and Dampier, so again, a very underrated QB OC sort of package deal there, or a little combo, sort of getting overshadowed, by the way, by with Sean Matier and Ben Arbuckle. But because of all that, because of how much faith I have in Kyle Whittingham to not have a losing season back-to-back years, I think they could be a sneaky team. So again, it's not an overall prediction; it's just a projection. So I'll do my predictions on Thursday for all the conferences. So the over win total from FanDuel, not a sponsor of the show, by the way, just the asset we use, is 7.5 for them, over under. So you can do the over. I believe it is. I think a lot of folks are picking over for Utah. So if that's a single for anything. So I think the best case scenario for me is 9-3 based on that schedule. Again, get a lot of those tough games at home. Yes, the Wyoming game concerns me, but you're used to playing in that elevation. But then again, the travel there, it's tough. It's a different environment up there in Wyoming. But I do think with this team and knowing Kyle Whittingham and what he's been able to do over the past 10 years, if you will, if you want to go that far, bringing in Dampier, bringing in Jason Beck, that his friend, I think 9-3 is not impossible here. And look, Dampier is also, he's not a pocket passer. He's a little threat guy. He can run around, and I think that's helpful with going against a Big 12 that doesn't really necessarily have a lot of talent around it. So that's if you're a Utah fan, that should be encouraging to have that combo and having that friendly of a home schedule. So I think best case is 9-3. Worst case is 6-6. I think that is definitely on the table here. Injuries and whatnot. It's not the most talented team in terms of roster retention or not roster retention, but roster acquirement, a talent acquirement. But it is Kyle Whittingham, so I do trust him in terms of getting a somewhat reasonable product on the field week to week. But we'll see if injuries don't play a role into that. So I think 6-6 is there as the worst case scenario. And I will say this may shock you, but the most reasonable scenario, at least in terms of the record, same as the best case, 9-3. I think Utah could be an interesting bounce back team this year. So how about that? So over win total 7.5 over, I guess, for me, if you will. I guess that's this is what it's telling you. So yeah, best case 9-3, worst case 6-6. Reasonable, same as the best case, 9-3. So hopefully that Dampier, Jason Beck, experiment works out for them, and I think it might. All right. To end the show here, again, we're not going for an hour, if you will. We'll do that this time next week. The Tuesday poll. This is a new thing we've been doing. Now, this is not to be clear here. Not a power rating. So this is not a power rating. We're not listing teams of who be favored over who on a neutral field. We're not doing this. It's just strictly a top 25. If I were doing an AP ballot, this would be my AP ballot. And I'm about to reveal it to you guys or reveal it to the world. So here it is. There's no graphic here, so I got to follow along with me. I will probably post this on Twitter later. So this is the preseason version. This will obviously change throughout the week. So we'll not do this again next week. This will be changing after once week 1 is over. So we're going to do this. We're going to start from 25 all the way to 1. But we're going to do this in chunks here. So we're going to do 25 to 20 here first. We're going down from 20 or from 25 down to 20. So we start at 25 and at 20. So we have, if you're visualizing this here, but I'll just list them off here. So 25, Baylor. 24, Nebraska. 23, South Carolina. 22, Michigan. 21, Ole Miss. 20, Utah. Baylor, like their quarterback, Sawyer Robinson. I've been very high on them. They could be they've been sort of a trendy pick there for the Big 12 this year. I like them. Nebraska. same kind of idea, a bit of a trendy pick. I know Josh Pate, somewhat from the program, has them going to the playoff. I don't know if I'm that bold on them yet. We'll see. I think them at 24 makes sense. Dylan Raiola, Daniel Holgerson, the OC there. They do lose Tony White, which concerns me a little bit, and also in going to echo what Bud Elliott over there at Carr 3 has mentioned, that it is interesting that you lose. He may have said this on Mulcaster on Carr 3 because he's on both. But it is interesting that Tony White leaves Nebraska and goes to Florida State, and knowing what talent Nebraska has come back, because they did lose a lot of guys on defense. Interesting to see that he ended up leaving Nebraska's much better situation offensively, with Daniel Holgerson coming as the OC and Dylan Raiola versus Florida State. That's interesting. So it does bump it out a little bit. They would have been a lot higher if Tony White was still there. So Nebraska at 24. That's why. South Carolina, look, the AP has them a lot higher than I do. In my opinion, it's the losses on defense. Yes, you have some individual pieces there, but that's tough, man. Wide receiver, same thing. I know the Harbor kid, EA loves him on the video game. He's like a 99 speed, I believe. But that's just individual pieces. And of course, you have Lenora Sellers schedule tough. South Carolina, again, in the words of Bud Elliott, they're take the checks, take the losses type of team. They're under-resourced, but their talent there is not bad. It's just unproven, but they could be a good team too. So they're in 23. Michigan at 22. Reason why they're there, not higher. I believe that's the lower than the AP poll, I believe. Yeah, the AP has them at 14. I'm way lower on them. Unproven talent. And not to mention, the schedule is somewhat tough. You also have a new quarterback coming in. Yes, he's talented. And yes, he's similar in sort of style as like a Cam Newton type quarterback. By the way, congrats on getting your jersey retired. That'll be happening in the Georgia game, I believe. But with Michigan, again, it's just a lot of newness. Again, you lose the offensive tackle. That's concerning. It's just not great. Kind of a concern there. So that's why they're a little bit lower than I would have had them before today. Ole Miss, 21. A lot of replacements, right? And I don't think I see a Walter Nolan there on the defense. I think they'll take a step back. Offensively, Austin Simmons, they should be okay there. No problems with him. Utah, just talked about him. Devin Dampier and Jason Beck coming in with, let's start with that offensive brain trust here coming in with Kyle Winningham. Love that. They're at 20. The AP, by the way, and the coaches, I don't believe have them ranked at all. So how about that? By the way, too, you're not going to see Tennessee on here. Tennessee, I believe, is not on here. So that's the team that is missing from the Tuesday poll. They're not on here. All right. 19 to 15. I guess we'll just do it like this. So at 19, Florida, way lower than the AP poll and the coaches poll. The injuries that they're having at receiver, the injuries that are starting to pile up. The DJ Lagway thing is here. Won't he be healthy? I think he will be healthy, at least to start out the year. Himself, though, major thing is if he's out, and it's the kid from Tennessee. And again, just a reminder, again, Bud brings it up all the time too, that they were trying to get the Purdy kid from Charlotte, who's like an Anthony Richardson knockoff. He's not there. Again, he was on campus, or at least he was on the roster, and then he got left out because of, I think, academic stuff, which is stupid. But he's not there, and you have the kid from Tennessee. I forget his name, but if you were going from DJ Lagway to the Purdy kid from Charlotte, who's at Wake Forest and starting, I would feel a lot more better because he fits your style. The kid from, I believe, I'm forgetting the kid's name from Tennessee, but he's there now. And he's a backup. I don't trust him, so that's why Florida is sort of borderlining being out of the top 25. Let's see here. Just move the thing here. At 18, Illinois. Love Luke Altmaier. Love Brett Bielema. Love what he's putting out there. Again, something that Bud Elliott has pointed out on the cover 3, and they pointed us out a lot of times. Receivers don't like. The fact that, and again, I agree with Bud here, the fact that you're having to list me a lot of people, or I guess like the fact that you're seeing a lot of folks talking about Illinois' receiver group as a group and not just one individual, that's concerning. So don't like that. Their schedule is kind of is what it is. So Texas Tech, kind of the same thing with Florida a little bit. Injuries, concern here. Brandon Morton, can he stay healthy? A lot of pressure too with Jordan McGuire and company. Look, I said this before, I'll repeat it again. He's under a lot of pressure, and it unfortunately is job security pressure. So, look, you bring in Cody Campbell to pay all that money, and you guys better have a return on that, which means get to Dallas and actually get there and not, flame out. So, Texas Tech there, the running back situation there is not It's not ideal, so that's why they're a little bit lower. Above them is Arizona State. A little bit, is that a little bit lower than the AP or the AP? Yeah, a little bit lower than them. You lose Scatterby, that's a huge problem for me. You bring back Sam Levitt. I love Kenny Dillingham, but it's we'll see. Miami, a little bit lower than the AP. I think the AP has them top 10, I believe. Top 10 at number 10. You have them at 15. I don't know if I trust them defensively. Yeah, I know they made some changes there, but we'll see. Quarterback Carson Beck, I'm not overly, excited about that. So I know they have talent there. I know it's mostly players they've recruited. And look, I respect Mario Cristobal for getting that done, right? We're returning the roster, but that's just a lot of mystery there for Miami. Let's see here, kind of move along here. Let's see. Yeah, so we have where are we at right now? Okay, I guess we'll go from 14 to 11 here. So Kansas State at 14. Again, that's the highest ranked Big 12 team. I like them a lot more than Texas Tech and Arizona State. They have a lot more, I think, proven, a little bit in terms of like quarterback, coach combo. At least being in that system, I like them. They're at 14. Third team is Notre Dame. Of course, they have Jeremiah Love, quarterback. CJ Carr finally announced. So they're at 13. Number 12, Texas A&M. Like Mike Elko, Marcel Reed, yes, is a bit of a liability. They did okay in the portal. They got the wide receiver from NC State. So I like that. They do have a very tough schedule, though, initially. And then number 11, a team that is very high up there, I guess me and Josh Pitt are the only ones that are really high on them, is Georgia Tech. At number 11, shocker. I know a lot of you guys in Athens and, and Coral Gables and Clemson, South Carolina are probably going, Georgia Tech, huh? Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm joining Josh Pitt. I'm doing it. I love Georgia Tech this year. I think they should be a really good team. I'll just say this too, and I'll repeat what Josh has said before. If Georgia Tech won, if they would have, did what they did last year, including, if they actually beat Georgia, on top of beating Florida State early, on top of beating Miami, Georgia Tech would have been in the top 15 at the AP Bowl. I'm just going to say the quiet thing out loud. They would have been ranked, but they're not ranked. They should be ranked. They should be ranked probably in the top 10 too, if I be honest with you. It's surprising to me they're not ranked, and Tennessee is. So Georgia Tech, way higher on them. They should be in the top 25 to begin the year. Have them at 11. I love what they have coming back. I love what Brinkie is doing there. They know their identity. Yes, they lose Eric Singleton to Auburn. That sucks, but that's not what their identity is. Their identity is running the football. Haynes King is a good runner. He's improved. As long as he doesn't turn the football over, they should be okay. All right, let's just do the whole top 10 here as we're kind of moving along. So again, we're going all the way from 10 to 1. At number 10, LSU. Kind of like Florida here, the injury things are starting to concern me a little bit now with the Nussmeier thing and whatnot. We'll see if their portal additions fit. I think they are. Wide receivers, I love. We'll see. Speaking of LSU, they play Clemson at Death Valley in South Carolina. They play them. Clemson, love their receiver, love their quarterback. Defense, we'll see. Tom Allen coming in. Will they improve greatly? Because they didn't have a good production last year. At times last year, they were a bit sloppy, but we'll see. Clemson at 9. Oklahoma at 8. Much higher on them than the AP is. I'm in sort of like Josh Pate here. Love the addition of Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer. The receivers, better stay healthy. Offensive line, need to see some improvement there. If you can do that with Brent Venables and that brain trust here, they can put the brains and the bronze together. They get Michigan early. Again, like Josh Pateson's saying, a lot of other folks have been saying it too. I love that they get Michigan at home with a true freshman quarterback and Brent Venables calling the defense. Love that. Overthrow about that. That's why Michigan is not favored in that game. Oklahoma is, I believe, according to FanDuel. So them being there, love that. So actually, made a mistake here. So Notre Dame is actually at 6. Had them repeated here for some reason. So at 13 is actually not Notre Dame. I don't know why I forgot this. Is Louisville. So yes, Louisville is actually at 13. Jeff Brom and company made that mistake there, so we're leaving it in. But Louisville at 13. They're not ranked in the AP poll. They are in my poll. I forgot to put them in there. I think I was moving some stuff around. But Louisville is in there at 13. So yes, Jeff Brom. They bring in Slovis. Slovis, from USC, better fit there. Not to mention the running back room there is very good as well. So that's another team I forgot there. So yes, Notre Dame, copy and paste. When we get to them, I guess, but probably never repeating myself. But yeah, Oklahoma at 8, 7 Oregon. Dante Moore is still there. I mean, look, they're talented. They're very, very talented. Yes, their wide receiver room has been decimated with Evan Stewart, and one of their very talented receivers got kicked off the team, I believe. Just a lot of mystery there. Let's mention mystery in general in terms of they have talent there, but it's not been proven yet. This is the first time we're really seeing Dane Lanning's guys actually on the field instead of mostly being transfer guys mixed in. So we'll see. But I trust Dane Lanning and company. And number 6, Notre Dame. Again, you have Jeremiah Love. Again, like I just mentioned earlier, again, Louisville is at 13. Notre Dame's actually at 6. So Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, good team there, good quality of talent there. I know what they're going to do. I know what their identity is. They run the football. They should be able to do that. IDs as long as they don't have injuries there. Texas at 5. Arch Manning, that receiving core should be okay. Defense and offensive lines, some questions there. But I trust Sark and I trust that staff and what they've been able to do there. They're at 5. A little bit lower than the AP, obviously. They're at number 1. You'll see what number 1 is, and I think a lot of you might be stunned at who it is. It may not be who you think it is. At number 4 is Ohio State. Love the roster, the receiving room, defense. We'll see who will step up there. Running back room, same thing. They have talent there, but unproven talent, or at least a talent who is, people are familiar with there at Ohio State. Quarterback room, Julian Sayin, no shocker there. I think he should be okay as long as you have number 4 healthy. They should be good to go. Number 3 is Georgia. Wide receiver room, massively upgraded. Should be good. Quarterback, appears to be Gunnar Stockton. I'm not concerned there. Defense, same thing. Should be okay. We'll see if they lost a lot from the draft. With Georgia, I'm not too concerned about that as long as they have Kirby Smart there. They should be okay. Number 2, Penn State. Very high on them. Katron Allen and company. Him and his other buddy at running back. His name's forgetting me. Katron Allen and Singleton. Yeah, running back. Drew Aller's back. James Franklin, like him. He's a very good coach. He's not an elite coach. He's a very good coach. The most properly rated head coach in America, in my opinion, is James Franklin. Well, that's sort of America's punching bag. So they're number 2. Number 1, a team you have not seen yet, is Bama. I love Bama, and you'll see that on Thursday where I have Bama. I just like their chances this year in the SEC. They're the most talented team in the SEC. They're the most proven. That's a wide receiver with Ron Williams. I love their defense this year. What I'm hearing, they should be good. They should be really, really elite in the secondary. Probably the first time in 10 years they should have a really good secondary at Bama. I love Kalen DeBoer. Bringing in Ryan Gribble. It's not a requirement. It helps, and they're up to start the football. Yes, I know J.M. Miller is going to be out for a little bit. But as long as he's healthy for SEC play, league play, they should be okay. No questions at all. No concerns. Even with Ty Simpson being the quarterback, he's a coach's son. He should be fine. He should be fine. And I believe, unlike last year, and I will echo Josh Pate, they should not be handcuffed at quarterback this year. In terms of, will the real Jalen Murrow step up? Will he be consistent? Getting that with Ty Simpson. Yes, he's not a runner. He's more of a pocket passer. I think if you're killing the board, I think you can sleep well at night knowing you're going to get someone who is not, going to be wildly inconsistent. That's why they're number 1. I trust him. I trust killing the board. If I'm wrong, then we're wrong. And we'll eventually, of course, revisit this with our final poll and our poll at the beginning of the year. And it's not a spreadsheet, by the way, too. So we'll be tracking this throughout the year. So Alabama at number 1. They are the number 1 team in our poll to start out on the Tuesday poll. The first edition of the Tuesday poll. We'll do this again in 2 weeks after week 1 is over with. So Bama number 1. The top 5 is Texas, Ohio State, going down from 5 to 1. Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Penn State, Bama. That is your number 1 team in the country, at least for me. If I'm filling out a ballot, that'll be it. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of disagreement in the comments and on Twitter when I put this out later. That's it for the show. We'll be back on Tuesday. We'll be back next Tuesday. We'll be on this Thursday. No show, probably on Thursday next week. So, be sure to follow me on Twitter, subscribe to the podcast feed, YouTube as well, like the streams, videos. So until Tuesday, we'll see you then. Until then, we'll see you guys on the next stream. Take care, and we'll see you then.